Oh, hey, you've caught me enjoying a beverage. I uh I spoke to my neighbor the other day. He is an older gentleman, and he and I have struck up a bit of a friendship over the last couple years. I first met him when I was out walking my dog and he was out walking his. Naturally, our dogs were drawn to each other, as dogs just have to get a good whiff of the other dog's butt. But my neighbor and I started talking, and over the course of time, I got to learn about him and he got to learn about me. Well, the other day he tells me that he walks by my house twice every day, walking his dog in hopes to find me there so we can chat. This man, who's probably in his 70s, walks this big English bulldog around this huge block we have in our neighborhood twice a day, just in the off chance that I may be outside working in the yard or something like that. And I really enjoy talking with him. He's witty and no nonsense, and he has a pretty unique perspective on things due to his experiences. I told him that I really enjoyed talking with him as well, and he told me that the neighborhood used to be this bustling, crazy neighborhood with neighbors out and about helping each other out with their houses or having cookouts. Kids would be running and biking up and down the streets, but over the years, he's seen the neighborhood become filled with people who just stay in their houses, whose kids stay inside on their electronic devices, and nobody really knows anybody anymore. It's crazy to think how this man has witnessed the transformation of not only the neighborhood, but the world. And it got me thinking, men today would do well to establish friendships with older men. I mean, think about it. There's this incredible resource for us to learn from, grow, and gain new perspectives. The older generations have experienced things that we never will, and we can gain insight and understanding from those experiences. And it's actually pretty fun to talk to older people. So, here's a list of reasons you should make friends with older people. Now, this goes without saying, but if you invite more people into your life, you will have more people in it. Older people oftentimes make excellent conversation, and they love sharing their lives with you. And they love when you share your life with them. For those who are getting into the autumn or winter of their lives, loneliness is an epidemic. They've grown up, had careers, got married, had kids who eventually moved away and had their own children. They've retired, and unfortunately, many see their friends or spouses pass on and they're left alone. And much like my neighbor, they're not finding a lot of people out and about ready to strike up a relationship with an older person. We're created to have friendships, so to get to the later years of your life and not have any, that's a real shame. When you take an interest in someone who's older, it makes their day. Perhaps an older person has a negative view on younger people or hasn't had much success lately in cultivating relationships. But when you take an active interest in them, you could witness their whole demeanor change. There's truly something to be said about bringing joy to someone who maybe hasn't felt joy as a consequence of interacting with people for a very long time. You can be that person. People have more years on this planet, have the advantage of more experience, and are able to parse out the important stuff in life with the unimportant stuff that we may tend to worry too much about. It's like that old adage that nobody lies on their deathbed wishing they'd spent more time at the office. This is because the things that are truly important in life become more clear as our life experience grows. Older people are a phenomenal resource for advice and insight and wisdom. They've already passed milestones in their lives that you may be going through or are not far down the road. So instead of going in blind, making friends with older people allows us to approach unknown or scary times in your life with some arrows in your quiver. And you're much more prepared to enter those unknown or scary times with confidence. Confidence you might not have had if you hadn't had a relationship with an older person. Have you ever had an experience with an older person who had absolutely no filter? They'll tell you that you're getting fat or that your haircut looks stupid. Older people do not care about social clout. They care even less about your internet presence or that you have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. They don't care. What they do care about is your value. What you do that actually has value, your work ethic, your contributions to the world, not what you can take. They're big on personal responsibility. If you want to piss off an older person, tell them that you deserve something simply for existing. They have no concept for that, and rightfully so. These people came from generations that had to work their asses off just to eat. In the 1970s and 80s, when interest rates rose to over 18%, families had to do whatever they could just to put food on the table, work 3 jobs, cohabitate with another family, sacrifice their wants and desires for the provision of people they were responsible for. Older people are not shy about calling selfishness what it is, and they're right. Imagine a fantastic book filled with the greatest stories ever put to paper. The knowledge and insight from this book could dramatically alter the course of your life for the better and help navigate some of the choppy waters that lie ahead. Now imagine never reading that book and facing the same obstacles, but without the benefit of what could have been attained by simply reading that book. Books are written to be read, and older people are like those books. They're filled with all this great experience that we talked about earlier, but unlike books, they have a finite time to share those experiences. Older people I run into ask so many questions and they share so many things unprompted because they often are interested in younger people and they love sharing. But when we don't reciprocate, we're communicating that we don't care about them. And the experiences that they want to share, they're just not that important to us. That may not be what we feel, or maybe that we're not doing it consciously, but that's what's communicated. So make an effort. I once heard a story from a soldier in World War II. It was winter, and the base camp was kind of situated in this forest-like region, and some of the barracks were kind of separated by this wooded area with a small path between them. Not too long, but not like a short distance either. One night, after playing cards and staying later than they probably should have, they made their way back to the barracks. Under the blanket of extreme darkness and biting cold, they made their way through the wooded area. Suddenly, in the forest next to the path, they hear a shuffling. Not a squirrel or any other small animal. It sounded like a small band of men trying to make their way undetected. The soldier stops in the tracks, slows their breathing to concentrate on the noise. And then they hear it again. So they stop again, and they listen. Now they can hear the quiet footsteps of 2 people trying to advance silently. Now their heart is beating through their chest, and all they can think about is, how am I going to survive to warn the others of the oncoming surprise assault? So carefully, they crouch down, and they slowly try to make their way back to the barracks, hiding to remain undetected. Hand on pistol, the thought comes, am I going to have to take out this Nazi group by myself? Or are they going to take me out? Their heart is in their mouth, and the rustling and crunch of snow gets nearer. Suddenly, they can sense that the small Nazi group is directly behind them. They take a couple deep breaths, turn around to find a moose just standing there. Now, is this story true? I have no idea. Is this story entertaining?
Hell yes.
You could almost put yourself in their shoes, even after all these years. The story is being told in such rich detail that it pulls you in. It's engaging, and you feel like you're there, ready to come face to face with Adolf Hitler. But instead, you meet Bullwinkle. In an age today where stories are shared in snippets or are anecdotal, we become accustomed to communicating in 280 characters or less, or a minute-long video looped over and over and over. It's very important, and I would say necessary, to take the time to hear stories from the older generations. So many of these stories have been lost due to the decline in the oral history of this country. I've seen and forgotten so many things that million-dollar corporations have put on big screens designed to entertain me, but I will never forget that story. Talk to an older person, and you will hear stories that you won't forget either. Have you ever left hanging out with someone and you're like, man, that was awesome? And you have a bit more like spring in your step. I mean, sometimes, especially when we haven't maybe had interactions like that for a while, we get starved. And so the times when we do get some personal interaction, it feeds our souls. Now imagine an older man who perhaps hasn't had a meaningful interaction like that in years. Maybe like my neighbor who walks his big fat dog past my house twice a day. They desire that personal connection. It energizes them and inspires them to step out of their comfort zones in order to have these types of relationships. So, that's your homework for this week. Find an older person at work or around your neighborhood and strike up a conversation with them. Ask pointed questions. Ask questions about growing up or, something that they're into. They will love it and you will love it. And if you develop a relationship with them, both of you are going to benefit and it's going to be awesome. So that's your homework for this week. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you've had a really cool interaction or a friendship with an older person, or maybe you are an older person, you have a relationship with a younger person. You can talk about how that's helped you. All right. Well, I don't know how I'm going to end this video, so I guess I am just going to go.